Welcome back to DSR, and we're going to jump back into Crooked Moon and do a wizard subclass from there because I feel like doing wizard subclasses. I like wizards a lot. And this is going to be the Occultist subclass. Seek beyond the stars for forbidden knowledge. Wizardry urges the relentless pursuit of knowledge that pushes every boundary in search of greater power and understanding. But some boundaries are never meant to be crossed. Occultists care not for these limitations, peering beyond cosmic veils, devouring forbidden secrets, and pushing their understanding of spellcraft until reality itself tears open. It is from the strange alien realms that are revealed which they draw even greater power, shattering all limits no matter the eldritch consequences. Cool. I like it. I think it's thematic and sweet and short and sweet and very much to the point, which I also appreciate. And it's a cool trope. So let's see how they execute it with Wizard. Level 3, Forbidden Knowledge. In your study of prescribed power, you learn deep speech or another language of your choice, which is cool. I don't know if a lot. Some DMs just don't play with languages and ignore it and just pretend like everybody can talk to everybody. I think you're missing out on an opportunity. It is a lot of fun to have characters or player characters and players try to deal with situations and social encounters when they don't have a language in common. And if that's not enough for you, I have a mechanic called situation dice that I tie to languages to just give it a little boost as well. Which let me know if you're interested in how that works. But yeah, I can do that in another video. All right. Continuing forbidden knowledge. In addition, choose a level 1 spell from the Warlock spell list. You always have it prepared, and you can change your spell chosen when you finish a long rest. So this is a very brief line and very quick, but I think it has a lot more impact than you might think, right? There are a number of Warlock first level spells that are designed with power in mind that they can only be cast a few times using packed spell slots, and so they function differently on a full caster. Okay. One of those is Hellish Rebuke, which on a Warlock I actually think is not very good. Hellish Rebuke upcasts really well. It starts at 2d10 and upcasts by another 1d10 per spell slot level. But with only 2 pack spell slots, I don't think you can afford to be wasting one of your 2 spell slots on that kind of a reaction spell to deal some damage. I mean, it's one of the better single target damages, and it's a very powerful way to weaponize your reaction as a spellcaster. But yeah, it's just not worth it when you only have 2 pack spell slots. But on a full caster who has lots and lots of spell slots, now at level 3, I don't think I would pick Hellish Rebuke, but I might swap it in later. Once you reach like late tier 2 or tier 3, you have a lot of like second level spell slots that you're probably not using. You may not even be using many of your third level spell slots at this point. And hitting creatures with Hellish Rebuke with that is going to do like 3d10 for a second level spell slot or 4d10 for a third level spell slot. It's a decent chunk of damage. Yes, you have Backlash as a wizard now, which is a 4th level spell and allows you to absorb some damage, 46 plus your spellcasting modifier, and then do some damage back to them. It's 46 damage, not your spellcasting modifier in that case. But if you use a 4th level spell slot on Hellish Rebuke, it would be 5d10, which is a lot more than 46. So depending on how much damage you take, maybe that's the way to go. If it's not very much damage, and they just kind of plink you for, 5 or 10 damage, you can just take it. Maybe punish them for a boatload of Hellish Rebuke damage and teach them a lesson for trying to attack you. Okay, and that's just one example here. Arm of Gathis is a great one if you want to build some kind of wizard that happens to be standing on the front lines a lot. Armor of Gathis is only good if you're a frontliner or a tank, which as a straight wizard, you're probably not. But if you multi-class, that's actually really good. Yeah, anyway, a couple of examples. I don't have time, it would take too long to go through every Warlock first level spell, but there are some interesting spells there that actually work very differently on a full caster and are completely different in value on a full caster. All right, so let's continue there. Level 3, Intrusion. All right, this is where things get a little bit complicated, but it's not nearly as complicated as it seems. I'm going to actually boil it down here, but let's read the flavor text first. So, Intrusion, your search into the forbidden reaches beyond the universe, beyond the universe yields greater power, but comes at a risk of letting something from beyond intrude into your reality. So you have something called an intrusion die, and it starts as a D6. And this intrusion die can go up in size and go down in size. Back in the UAs when they were doing psionics the first time in 5e, related to the Mystic subclass or Mystic class, They had this kind of concept on some of the feats where you had a psionic die, and the psionic die you could use repeatedly, but when you like succeeded really well, it would shrink, meaning you're using up some of your power, and when you did poorly, it would grow back in size, meaning you use less power. Things like that. Cool idea, kind of complex to manage in gameplay, which I think will be the same problem here. It's a little bit complex, and I'm pretty sure that D&D Beyond is not going to implement managing the die size correctly, if at all. So you might just have a pen and paper next to you, just kind of write down what your current die size is, and it's not that bad. And your intrusion die isn't necessarily used all the time. Okay, so here's kind of the basics of what your intrusion does. I'm not going to actually read all this text because I actually think it's more confusing. But your intrusion die starts as a D6. It upgrades to a D8 at level wizard level 5, D10 at wizard level 11, and D12 at wizard level 17. The game calls for you to roll it periodically, and whenever you roll it, if you roll a 1, an intrusion occurs, and an intrusion is like a wild magic surge. So the bigger the die, the less the chance of the intrusion occurring, right? If you roll a 1 and cause an intrusion, the die size increases, kind of representing that an intrusion has occurred and you're less likely to have another intrusion. If you roll a 2 or higher on the die, no intrusion occurs, and the die size shrinks, increasing the chances that you're going to have an intrusion on the next one. Okay. The intrusion die increases by 1 size whenever you take a short rest, kind of representing that taking longer periods of time kind of causes the intrusion chances to start to reset back to normal, right? Like, I don't know, like every time you do something that causes a roll of the intrusion die, you're kind of weakening the barrier between dimensions kind of thing. And so if you take a rest and take some time, that barrier between dimensions kind of starts to re-solidify, and there's a smaller chance of an intrusion. It also resets to its original size when you take a long rest. And whenever it says it increases in size for any reason, it never increases in size back to what your starting die size is. So at level 3, it'll never be bigger than a D6. And it'll never be smaller than a D2, but it can go to D2, D3, D4, okay? But when you are level 17, you got a D12. So it can go all the way back up to D12, or it can drop all the way down to D2, yeah, that whole range. All right, so there is a table here that you can see, which is your intrusion table, which is like your wild magic surges. It's very similar to wild magic surges. But whenever you have to make an intrusion roll, and this is, yeah. So let's read. So then you have, that was all just explain how the intrusion die works. Then you have this section, which actually is a feature. So additionally, you can focus your alien potency into your spells. When you cast a spell using a spell slot, you can risk an intrusion to choose one of the following. So risk an intrusion isn't explained, but I'm pretty sure what that means is roll the intrusion die, right? So you make a roll, and this is anytime you cast a spell using a spell slot. So if you roll the intrusion die, then you get to choose one of these effects, which is cause a creature have one creature or all creatures have disadvantage on the first saving throw they make against your spell. So this is going to be decent for blasters, but very powerful for controllers, right? Because blast spells do damage once. But if you give everybody disadvantage against your hypnotic pattern, for example, yeah, they don't make resaves. So the first save cripples more creatures, right? So this is very powerful for controllers. Or you can choose Seeking Eye, which is you have advantage on the first attack roll you make for the spell. Strangely, I don't know why they limited this one to the first attack roll, but then this one was every creature has disadvantage. So Overwhelming Mind, super powerful. Seeking Eye, relatively weak, right? You're casting Scorching Ray, you have advantage on the first ray and none of the other rays. And there are very few attack roll spells in the game. So, yeah, sure, you could use this one. I'm not sure it's worth risking an intrusion. I would, but if you just want to try to cause intrusions, go nuts, right? Like some people just love wild magic. So there you go. Try it on every single spell, and you get to choose whether or not you're risking an intrusion on every spell you cast with a spell slot. And when you risk the intrusion, like I said, if you cause an intrusion, then the die size starts to, goes back up one step. And if you don't get an intrusion, the die size goes back down one step. So if you're starting at a D6 and choose to cause an intrusion on every one of your spells, you're going to reach D2 very fast. And then you're rolling a 50% chance to cause an intrusion on every spell. And maybe that's cool. But let's skip down to the table real quick. It's got 12 options on it. So you roll on the table. a d12 every time you cause an intrusion. So if you roll that 1 on your intrusion die, then an intrusion occurs, you roll a d12 here, and you get these effects. And like 50% of them are, a third of them are maybe bad for you. Um, like maybe only 2 of them are uniquely only bad for you. Then there's like 4 of them that are kind of bad for you and bad for people around you, including enemies. And then there's like half of them that are good for you. Anyway, so you got this kind of mix, and it feels a lot more similar to the, say, let's say the old Wild Magic Surge table, which has like, but just with fewer entries, where you had some things that are truly bad for you, some things that are kind of bad for the party, and some things that are actually really good for you and that are very desirable. Now, the 5.5 version of the Wild Magic table, they have changed it, and it's mostly only good stuff for you, and it's like a D20 now instead of a D100. All right, let's go through the table real fast. So if you roll a 1, you feel a presence behind that whispers incomprehensible things into your soul. Creepy. Until the end of your next turn, you can only do one of the following on a turn. Take an action, a bonus action, or move. So basically, you have the rider effect of Tasha's Mind Whip on yourself. Result of 2, space twists and melts in a 30-foot emanation around you. So like it turns into a Salvador Dali painting. Each creature, including you in the area, struggles against the warping of reality, and affected creature's speed is halved until the end of your next turn. I like the creativity they put in this. Very cool ideas. 3, the nearest creature within 60 feet of yourself must succeed on a Constitution saving throw or take necrotic damage equal to 2 rolls of your intrusion die at its starting size, not its current size, and you regain a number of hit points equal to the damage roll. So this one is straight up beneficial for you, possibly bad for an ally, because it's the nearest creature. So who's most likely to be standing near you? Allies. So you're going to deal necrotic damage to your ally, and then you're going to heal. It's be like, super sorry. So a 4, reality tears in your space until the end of your next turn. You and each creature that you can see that can see the tear must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or have a frightened condition while the tear exists, which is until the end of your next turn. So you might frighten yourself, but also frighten all of your allies, but also frighten all of the enemies. Everybody's got to roll a saving throw. 5, one of your arms warps into an alien appendage, such as a distorted version of an arm or a twisting tentacle for 1 minute. You can make unarmed strikes with the limb using your spell attack bonus. Instead of the normal damage, roll a number of intrusion die at its starting size equal to your proficiency bonus. The target takes acid damage equal to the total rolled. All right, so I got to pause and talk about this one for a little bit. First up, it maybe doesn't seem great. You know, it's unarmed strikes. You're a wizard, which means you can make 1 attack. It does use your spell attack bonus instead of like your strength. So at least you have that. So you're going to have a decent chance to hit. It doesn't give you reach, which means you're going to have to walk up to melee to try to hit somebody with this thing. But it's a number of intrusion dice equal to your proficiency bonus, and it deals acid damage. Okay, so at level 3, you know, you might get 2d6 acid damage on a hit with this thing, which is not worth running into melee probably, right? But at level 17, this thing's going to do 6d12 on every hit, and it's going to deal acid damage. Acid damage is very rarely resisted or immune. It's a really reliable damage type. So 6d12 on every hit. Okay, you're still making 1 attack at 5 feet. Is it worth waiting to melee as a level 17 or higher wizard to do that? Maybe. But you can, I'm sure there's ways to optimize around this thing. You know, be a species that has reach, or can get reach, right? Find ways to give yourself more attacks. I don't know how you could do that if you're going 17 levels of wizard. You can probably go some go 1 fighter level for action surge to give yourself 2 attacks. Maybe a level of monk so that you can give yourself a guaranteed bonus action attack, right? So maybe like you probably get more mileage out of like 3 levels of monk than you would out of 1 level of fighter and something else. So 3 levels of monk is going to give you a guaranteed bonus action attack every round. And you're going to have 3 focus points you can spend on flurry of blows, which is going to allow you to make sometimes, as long as you have those focus points, 3 total unarmed strikes in 1 round with this arm that's going to do 6d12 damage on every hit. So you can optimize around this one. The problem is it's not guaranteed you're going to roll this, but when it comes up, if you've done that multi-classing, that's going to be your moment, right? Where you're just going to wreck the battlefield. In that moment, this thing is probably S1 tier, right? It's probably overly powerful. The only thing that brings it back is the fact that this is random and you can't guarantee that you're going to get that. So I'm not going to rank it as S1 as a subclass overall. It's going to stay, well, you'll have to wait and see what the rating is, but it's going to be allowed in my games. Yeah, but when that comes up, if you've spec'd for, you know, that kind of thing, Uh, and, maybe get Tavern Brawler as well. You're going to be crazy when you roll that. It's going to feel awesome, and it's going to last. It's going to happen, once in a while. All right. 6, alien landscapes overlay your vision, giving you the blinded condition till the end of your next turn. So you blind yourself. 7, unnatural thoughts disorient you, giving you the incapacitated condition until the end of your turn. So 2 very bad ones only for you. 8, you experience an instant of terrible clarity. You take psychic damage equal to 2 rolls of your intrusion die at its starting size. And for 1 minute, your spell save DC is increased by 2. So you take a little bit of psychic damage, but then but increasing your spell save DC by 2 is a big deal. So that's, despite a little bit of damage, it's actually very powerful. And this one doesn't say anything about you can't reduce the psychic damage in any way. So you can be a Kalishtar and have resistance to psychic damage and cut that in half. 9, you regain an expended spell slot of level 5 or lower, your choice, and you take necrotic damage equal to twice the slot's level. So if you restore a 5th level spell slot, you're going to take 10 necrotic damage. And this damage can't be reduced in any way. So it says it on this one explicitly. It doesn't say it on the psychic damage one. So yeah, you can reduce your psychic damage. And there's even that feat. Is there a feat that allows you to reduce psychic damage? That might only be necrotic. All right, 10. When you cause an intrusion and at the end of each of your turns for 1 minute, pulses in the fabric of space fill a 15-foot emanation originating from you, giving you and each creature in it the prone condition. No save, just boom. And it's the end of each of your turns. So you're going to end every turn prone. And all of your allies who are in that area are going to end every turn prone. And every enemy in that area is going to end their turn prone. So this might be helpful. It's more likely to be a negative effect than a positive effect. A net negative than a net positive for the entire party. But that's interesting. 11, for 1 hour, you hear whispered, disembodied thoughts of hateful scorn directed at you. While you can hear the whispers, you have disadvantage on ability checks and saving throws that rely on wisdom. So this is only a net negative for you, and it lasts 1 hour. This is the longest lasting one. And 12, an aberration or fiend with a CR equal to your wizard level or lower, GM's choice, appears in an unoccupied space within 30 feet of you. The GM decides the creature's attitude, hostile, indifferent, or friendly, and actions. And honestly, DMs, I would probably roll it randomly. Because if you choose, it's going to feel like to the players that you're metagaming them. If they're losing a fight and you have it go hostile, they might be like, "Oh, you're piling on and trying to ruin our fun," right? Or if you say it's always friendly, then it's going to be too easy, things like that. So I would maybe just roll for it. Just roll a d6, and then 1 to 2 it's hostile, 3 to 4 it's indifferent, 4 to 3 to 4, 5 to 6 it's friendly, things like that. And just have it act accordingly. Maybe even choose a random location. It's not that hard to just roll a d8 to get a random direction, and then just go up to 30 feet out in that direction, out from the wizard. So this is interesting. It's an interesting table, and for people who love randomness and wild magic surges, they're going to love this. Personally, when I'm playing a player character, when I'm a player, I don't love that kind of randomness. But I still might play this. This one's very intriguing, and I think would be fun to play, and it has very cool flavor. Like the flavor of Wild Magic Sorcerer just is not interesting to me personally at all. That's just me. It just doesn't feel it just doesn't feel interesting. This one seems interesting to me, so I would be interested in playing this one. Okay, let's return to the features. So level 6, Reality Tear. Choose a spell of level 3 or lower from the Warlock spell list. You always have the spell prepared. You can change your chosen spell when you finish a long rest. When you cast a spell, you can risk intrusion to remove the need to concentrate on it. Risk intrusion, so roll an intrusion die. And that removes concentration and gives the spell a 1 minute duration. Or its normal duration, whichever is shorter, right? So you could pick Hunger of Hadar, risk an intrusion, cast it without concentration, and then keep casting it without concentration all over the battlefield. Hunger of Hadar is a great spell. It works a lot better when comboed with effects that can push creatures back into it. So that's why it works so well with like a Warlock who has Repelling Blast and Agonizing Blast. So they cast Hunger of Hadar and his monsters finally make their way out of it. The Warlock just blasts them right back into it. Now, you don't have access to Eldritch Blast, and you don't have access to Repelling Blast either. But there are other ways you can be pushing creatures. I don't know, Thunder Wave, the Gust cantrip. You can have allies with the Push Weapon Mastery. If you're going to rely on allies with the Push Weapon Mastery, make sure you coordinate that with them in advance, like session 0. Hey guys, I'm planning to do this kind of thing. I'm going to get Hunger of Hadar. I don't have a way to push him. I'm going to need you guys to try to get push functions and to be pushing creatures back into the Hunger of Hadar. And that might be your main gameplay, right? Because the fact that you can cast it without concentration is quite powerful. Additionally, you can cause an automatic intrusion, which automatically increases the die size by 1 up to its starting point, to cast the spell once without a spell slot, and you gain the ability to do so when you finish a long rest. So you get 1 free casting of the spell if you cause an auto intrusion. And this is our first way to cause an automatic intrusion. Like if you just wanted an intrusion to happen, there you go. At this point, I'm not sure you actually just want an intrusion to happen unless you're one of those just crazy people who love randomness, despite the fact that it might hurt you yourself and the party. Again, just check with the party how everyone feels like about that, because not everybody's going to be okay with you maybe causing a TPK because of your random table of effects, okay? Or even if it doesn't cause a TPK, if it just regularly impedes everybody, the other players probably are not going to enjoy that. All right. So make sure you check in with everybody first. And if they're not okay with that, don't do this at this point. But at level 10, we get some stuff to help. All right. So level 10, which actually feels a little bit late to me for these kind of features, but you get occult presence. You can, when you cause an intrusion, you can roll twice on the intrusion table and choose which result to use. There you go. You have a little bit of control over what's going on, and you can negate the intrusion by gaining a 1 level of exhaustion. So you can roll twice, and if both effects are just something you just don't want to deal with, then you have the alternative to just take a level of exhaustion and cancel the intrusion, which I like, right? I like that you can just cancel the intrusion. When I did a homebrew version of the 5e Wild Magic Sorcerer, and I did something similar where you could spend a sorcery point, you could roll on the table, and if you still did not like the result, you can spend a sorcery point to just cancel the Wild Magic Surge. This is a little bit more punishing by taking a level of exhaustion, but yeah, there you go. Now you can safely be triggering your intrusions and just know that you have the power to make sure it doesn't affect any of your allies, right? So maybe if you're okay with like crippling yourself with this stuff, then you let the blinded or incapacitated condition ride on you. But if you don't want to cause all of your allies to become frightened, then you cancel this one. All right, just work it out with the party, and you should be okay making sure you manage this thing. Additionally, you gain one of the following benefits, and you can change your chosen benefit when you finish a long rest. On top of that, as a bonus action, you can cause an automatic intrusion. Again, automatically happens. This causes the die size to increase up to its starting size to change your chosen benefit. So this I like very much because you have these 3 powers or 3 features. You only have one at a time. You can change it on a long rest, and the problem with that is you don't always know what you're going to need the next day. So you could choose one and just be like, well, I chose the wrong one today, and now this sucks. So I love it when they give you a way to change it. And yes, it should cost something. And this one is another automatic intrusion. For the kind of player I am, I don't like those kind of random effects that much. I would like to have seen it give me something where I can like expend a spell slot to cancel the intrusion instead of getting a level of exhaustion. But I guess you're playing with crazy alien powers. It's going to cost you something serious. So your first option here for this feature is Alien Consciousness. You gain immunity to the charmed and frightened conditions, and you can't be possessed. That one's going to be decent, but the other ones are better. Cosmic Resistance. You gain resistance to necrotic and poison, psychic damage, not poison. That one's really good if you know you're going to be taking that kind of damage, right? Which means to me is I probably wouldn't pick that one in general. I'd wait and see if you're in a combat where the monsters are doing a lot of necrotic and psychic damage, then I would switch to this one. Spatial Domination. You gain fly speed equal to your speed and can hover. All right, this is honestly most of the time going to be the winner. If you have no idea what you're going to encounter the next day, choose this. And then you just be flying around, because flying is basically always useful, especially with hover. So this is non-concentration flight, just all the time, always on, no usage, no duration, just always on. So that's always going to be useful. So you would just use this one, and then if you run into a fight where there's a lot of charm and frightened effects happening, maybe you switch to Alien Consciousness as your bonus action. Or if there's a lot of necrotic and psychic damage happening, then you switch to Cosmic Resistance to prevent that. But otherwise, just stick with flight, and you're going to be pretty well off. So that's actually a decent level for us for features. And then level 14, Beyond Space. The nature of distance and location is revealed for the lie that it is. You always have the scrying spell prepared. And that's one line, but it conveys so much flavor and inspiration in that simple sentence that I just love this one. When you cast Scrying, you can risk intrusion to choose one of the following things. So risk intrusion, that's a roll an intrusion die. And this is every time you cast Scrying, okay? So all-knowing, treat your connection to a target creature as if you have part of its body. So you just have to be aware of a creature, and you have always the best chance at Scrying succeeding. right? You just have to know the creature exists, I guess. You don't need to know its name or anything. You just need to know that the creature exists so you can target it, right? You can't target things you're not aware of. All seeing, cast a spell as an action instead of its normal casting time, which is nice. But we're not done. When you cast Scrying during the spell's duration, you can cause an automatic intrusion and increase the die size up by 1 to its starting size to teleport yourself and any willing creature within 10 feet of you to an unoccupied spaces you can see through the Scrying sensor. Once you teleport in this way, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. So you guys can you can be spying on anything you want all the time, and then you guys, whenever it makes sense, you can all just teleport the whole party right there, like warping space, and blam, you're there. So I think this is a very cool feature. I think it is interesting. It's one of our features that's it's not like combat related like most other things are. And I like that. I like having non-combat features. It feels pretty late. Like your capstone probably shouldn't be a non-combat feature, despite the fact that I like this a lot. And scrying, it can be very powerful. In the hands of creative players and players who are creative at leveraging knowledge that you gain from these kinds of divination things, this is going to be S tier. And then the ability to just teleport to it is going to be huge, right? So, like if you become aware of the villain, and one of the things that DMs are supposed to be doing with villains, like not like a simple mini boss at the end of some dungeon, but the villain of a major story arc in the campaign, right? To follow good storytelling practices, you should introduce that villain to them early and have that villain kind of like show up 2 or 3 times, demonstrating that it's vastly superior to the party, and then that's why they can't just kill it in the first time they encounter it, because they would just destroy all of them. Have it show up several times, and then, before the last final encounter, right? And then usually what you do is you have to have them wade through this like gauntlet of all these fights to get to the final encounter with the final boss of the campaign, right? Like that's classic storytelling. Well, with this wizard is now aware of that villain ever since the first encounter, even if they don't remember their name or know their true name. They just have to know that guy, right? They can scry on them at any time. And when you're ready for the final battle, you don't have to wade through the gauntlet of like encounters to get there. You just teleport right to the boss. Be like, okay, guys, you all ready? You ready? You ready? Okay, everybody, long rest. We're set. We're fresh. Scry on the boss. Teleport to him. Final encounter. It's a bit crazy. It's a bit crazy. I do like this feature. So it's fun, and it triggers your intrusions if you want to use it to do that teleport. So for those who like the wild magic nature of the intrusions and then rolling on that random roll on the table, then yeah, more automatic intrusions is going to be a great thing. Just like I said, make sure your whole party is up for it so you don't ruin the fun for other people. Okay. And now the moment I've all been waiting for. Let's rank it. I'm going to give this one an A overall. I think it's great. I think it'll be fun to play. I think it's going to be decently mechanically impactful. It's a little bit hard to figure out like how is it going to play because of the randomness of it. But frankly, I think the randomness of it is what you're here for, right? If you don't like random, don't choose this thing. If you like random, this is your thing, right? And you wanted a random wizard, blam, right? Maybe you're just tired of playing the wild magic sorcerer all the time and you want to try something else random. Here you go. I think it's going to be fine as a multi-class dip, as an A as well. Ranking everything else, like I said, is going to be a little bit strange because of the fact that it has these features where you can just choose anything, choose a spell from the Warlock spell list, and depending on what you choose, greatly influences what this is going to do for you. Okay, so I'm going to give it a C for frontlining. That's Arm of Agathis. A for ranged. That's the ability to use like Hellish Rebuke to deal more damage. The ability to cause disadvantage on saving throws against your like range damage dealing spells, or gain advantage on the first attack roll. Like there's a number of different ways you can be a range damage dealer. Then Blaster, I'm gonna give it a B. Although maybe actually I think it deserves an A. We're gonna give that an A because of the fact that you can cause disadvantage on every save against that blast spell. A is a controller for the same reason. C is a scout. That's scrying. And scrying is a great spell. I give it scrying is an A tier scout spell, but you get it at level 14, and it's your only dedicated scouting feature, right? So that's why it's a C, because averaged out over all your levels, you have a C's package worth of scouting features, even though this one on its own is an A. It just comes late. D for face, that's the extra languages we're getting. B for self buff. There's a number of results on that intrusion table that can be buffing you in different and strange ways. And A for survival. and an A for mobility, right? The survival features, there's a number of survival enhancers here. There's the resistances that can be enhancing you. You also have things like Armor of Agathis and other things to help with you with survival. And then, of course, mobility, right? Permanent flight, that's an A. And hover. So you can't be knocked out of the air. The only way you'd be knocked out of the air is if you are rendered unconscious, right? So, or less dead. But once you're dead, you don't care if you fall out of the air. So this one's solid. And here is the Google Sheet where I have all the rankings for everything I've done. This is the partner classes and subclasses tab you can see here. And so that way you can see where the Occultist Wizard kind of fits in rankings wise with everything else from the Crooked Moon Part 1 book, which is all of these. And you can see the Crooked Moon is doing pretty well. They have nothing less than an A, so they've at least done well with that. They have one S and then two S1s. And frankly, that Sinner, maybe that one deserves an S, not an S1. I've got to go back and really look at that one. So they overshot on at least one of these, maybe two of them, but there's no duds, right? Which I think is perhaps the most important thing. I think it's easier to pull back on power than it is to add power to something. So there are some easy ways to pull back on the power for the Pestilent Haze Monk and the Sinner if you need to, if those are being problematic. So I think this is a good book. They've done a solid job with everything I've covered so far. That there might be other stuff in there that's crazy, but or duds. But so far they've done a great job. And I've done, what is that? Like eight of these subclasses so far. Only one other book is that consistent, and it's Exploring Eberron, right? And these are only partner books, so I'm not talking about any other book. Exploring Eberron, very, very consistent. A lot of everything's an A, and then you got a few S's. So, but Crooked Moon really has amazing art and flavor, and I think that's where they, honestly, I think that's where they're winning against Exploring Eberron. I know that Exploring Eberron, right? You've got an art budget and you do what you can with it. A lot of people say that the flavor's not there in Exploring Eberron. Actually, in Exploring Eberron, the flavor's in different chapters of the book. It's not embedded in the subclasses so much, like what they did with the Crooked Moon. But the Crooked Moon's art is fantastic, right? They did a great job of that. I know most of us don't buy books just for art. This one is is right on that line for me. I mean, I already bought the book, but the art is so good here, and the lore and things like that is so good. This one might be worth it just for that alone. But the mechanics are solid too. Okay, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. If you don't have enough D&D in your life, check the video descriptions. You can find a link to join my Discord or find me on Start Playing Games. You can also find the link to the Google Drive that has this Google Sheet. This is the one Google Sheet to rule them all. So it has almost everything. Almost everything I've rated is in that one Google Sheet. There are some subfolders for campaign specific kind of content that didn't apply to other things. So there's a little bit of odds and ends in there too. But if you just mainly interested in these ratings and doing these comparisons, that's this one Google Sheet. It's publicly accessible. You don't have to join anything or do anything to get access to it other than, I guess, click the link. But it is a community resource. So if you are one of those people who just naturally analyzes things and has thoughts about balancing things, I would love your help, because I want this Google Sheet to be the most valuable it can be for the community. That is the point of it. I don't care if I'm right. I just care that this is the most right it can be. So if you want to, if you're that kind of person, drop some comments if you think I got something wrong. Like, say, hey, this one I think should be adjusted this way or that. That would be extremely helpful. I mean, I think I'm pretty good at this, but it doesn't matter how good any one person is. Decision fatigue is a real thing. Also, there are biases that occur. There's, all kinds of factors influence it. I'm 100% not 100% accurate at this. Okay. So the more people that weigh in, the better this thing gets. So I'd love your help if you're at all interested in like that, or you can join my Discord and give me the feedback that way. And especially if you want to have longer, in-depth debates about different pieces, I have a channel dedicated to that on my server. So would love to have you if you want to help with that way. And I do adjust these ratings, on a regular basis based on people's input and feedback. They bring up very good points, things I missed, or I was influenced by, the last thing I read was really, really good, and this thing was maybe not quite as good, and that made it seem worse than it really is, and vice versa, where, hey, this thing was really bad when I read it, and then the next thing I read was okay, but because of the previous one being so bad, maybe I rated this thing much higher than it deserved. All that kind of stuff happens. So the more people that weigh in, the better. Remember that D&D is a game, and the only point of it is have fun with your friends, okay? So please be cool when you play D&D, all right? Catch you next time.